Hello there, I'm Shane Young, and I get the privilege of helping you learn Copilot Studio. But before we start, I did want to let you know that I worked with the Microsoft product team to create this awesome training for all of you Power Platform rock stars. Cool? Cool. Okay, let's get to it. Let's learn about topics by learning what they are, how they work, and build a more straightforward topic to start getting ourselves some results. So first off, up here at the top, we can click on topics. And so topics are a way to have structured messages, actions, conditions, interactions overall with the user based on a given trigger. So instead of using the orchestration where we say, hey, AI, you decide what comes next based on the different descriptions and parameters and instructions you have, and a topic, we're going to say, hey, follow this specific path. And so as you can see here, there's a lot of different topics that are built into the system. So these are the ones that control some of the things, like when a conversation first starts. If we click on that, we can see that we get that message, right? We see that message over here on the right. And if we click into here, we can actually see that they're using a variable here to write that, and then that's the message. So for example, if you want to change every time they have a conversation start up, you want to have it do something different, you just come in here and edit the topic. And next time someone starts a conversation, it would follow whatever instructions you had here. Back to topics here. So you can see there's a lot of different ones in here that are driving some of the behaviors. So for example, conversational boosting, where it's using the orchestration of the knowledge, that is all coming from here. When something needs escalated, that is running this particular topic. So there's a bunch of these pre-built topics, but sometimes you want to build your own. So for example, let's go up here and click on add a topic. Now we can either do it from blank or from description with Copilot. So since you have me here to guide you today, we're just going to do it from blank, but you could definitely use Copilot to engage in a conversation to help you set this up. So we're going to click on from blank. Now for us to replicate what we saw in the earlier demo, we're going to set this up to do new computer requests. So let's click up here and give it a title of new computer requests. And then every topic starts with a trigger. Like what is it that the agent knows, hey, when this thing happens, I should go down this path. And so very much like your Power Automate cloud flows have triggers. So here what we're going to do is we're going to give it instructions though. So we're going to say something like, when a user asks anything about getting a new computer, PC, laptop, Mac, etc., then this topic is triggered. So then we're counting on the large language model to determine that, hey, they're asking something, their intent is to get a new computer request. And so then this trigger will take over. By putting different synonyms for computer, PC, Mac, etc. in here, we're giving it a lot of variety to help more consistently trigger this. Over time, if you're struggling to get one of your topics to trigger, come back to this, describe what the topic does, and add more verboseness. Add the thing that someone always says that doesn't usually work, and you can get a better experience. Okay, so that's our trigger. So they're all going to have one trigger to start. So now we want to add a question. We want to ask them basically, do they want a desktop or laptop? So we're going to press the add node here. And then we'll say, ask a question. For the message, we'll try something like, are you looking for a desktop or a laptop? And we're going to go with a multiple choice option here because we want to put these in ourselves. So we're going to click new option. And then here we'll enter a desktop. And then we'll click down here on new option again. And we'll enter in a laptop. Click out of there. Okay, so now we've created the two options. Now we do want to change this. So this is by default is going to create a variable called var1. You could leave var1. var1 would be just fine. But because we want to use this in multiple places, we probably want to get a little more descriptive. Let's click on var1. This will open up the little panel that shows us our variable. This gives us a chance to change that name from var1 to something a little more meaningful like var asset type. And then down here under the usage, this is where we're going to determine, is this variable only available to this topic or is it going to be globally available? And so we want to make this globally available because what we want to do is we want to be able to use this variable with our action in a little bit. And so in order for it to be available in the action, we've got to make sure that it's globally available. Now, the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click into variable description here, and I'm going to set it up to, the asset type to be used with OData filters. Once again, I just want you guys to get in the habit of always adding descriptions because we know that the large language models are using those to infer what it can and can't do. And so little quick thing like that, even though we're going to manually specify it later, we want the large language model to know that it has that variable at its fingertips if it comes up with a reason it might need it in another scenario. So anytime you see a description, let's go ahead and fill those out. So now we've got this. Notice the name says global.var asset type. So that was automatically done. We didn't do that, but keep note of that because that's how we'll reference this in a little bit when we want to reference it. Now that the user has chosen desktop or laptop, what I want to do is I want to get back the list from our SharePoint of all of the desktops or laptops, depending on what they've chosen. We could have hard coded it here, but I don't want to have to come and change my agent every time the hardware that they can order is different. So we're just going to maintain that in SharePoint and then use an action here to trigger or pull in that information. Now we can't just create the action from here. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead and say save. All right, now that's saved, we're going to go back to actions and we'll say add an action. Over in the right, we're going to search for SharePoint and we're going to look for get items. Make sure you get the items with an S because that'll get a table of data. And just a reminder again, like these are the same actions you use over in Flow. All right, so it's checking our authentication. It's good. So we'll say next. Now for the name, we're going to do something like get list of computer options. And for description down here, we'll do get the list of computer options available for users to order from a SharePoint list. In user authentication, we want to use our user authentication. And so this looks good. So we're going to add our action. Now that's added, we want to go back in. So we're going to click on the get items. And I'm just going to add devices up here at the top, make it easier for me later. And then what we're really after here is going to the inputs. Now for the inputs, the first thing we need to do is specify the site. So we'll click in here and we want to use my Contoso IT Help Desk. Then for the lists, we want to set as value as well. We're going to confirm that we're going to get rid of the data that wasn't there. And then we're going to set this to be devices. And let's real quick look at that list. So switch over to SharePoint. And so here we have devices. And so this is where we've added our custom PCs and our laptops. And notice there's an asset type column over here that is set to desktop or laptop. That's a choice column type, but that's all we've done here. We've just given a title. I put the photos. We don't use the photos, but just a simple SharePoint list with our data. Okay, so just Alt Tab back over. Okay, so now what we want to do, right, this would get all of the items back. We don't want all the items back. We only want the ones that match our users. So what we're going to do is we're going to say add, and we're going to add a filter query. For the filter query, we're going to do a OData filter as well. And for this one, we also are going to set it as a hard-coded value. So we'll confirm the change. Now for the value here though, we can't just always have something hard-coded. What we're going to have to do is we're going to have to write a way to programmatically update that. So right, we're going to use our Power App Skills. So we're going to click over here on the far right. And then we're going to click on Formula. So in this Formula section here, what we want to do is we want to write a formula that will generate the OData query that we're used to using. Now, hopefully you've done OData queries before. If not, I'm not going to stop and break them completely down now, but it would be something that you want to learn to do a little bit better. Now, what we're really trying to do is create a string that is going to be of the pattern column name, space, EQ, space, and single quotes, the value that's stored in that variable. So let's try it out. We're going to go here. We're going to start with some double quotes. And then it's going to be asset type, that is the name of my column, space, EQ for equals, that's OData language, space, and then a single quote, because the text inside there, laptop or desktop, needs to be in a single quote, even though we're going to get it from a variable. Okay, so we got our single quote, so we're going to close our string. Notice the formula is happy, it's a string right now. We're going to do an ampersand, and then we're going to do global, and then do a dot, and then there is our var asset type. So whatever's in that variable, that's why we need to make it a global variable, will be put there. And then we need to do another ampersand and then a double quote for string and then our single quote to close out our single quotes around the laptop or desktop and then double quote. Okay, so if they choose desktop, that formula is going to spit out asset type equals single quote desktop single quote, which is a valid OData filter. Okay, so we can say insert here. And so now every time this action runs, it is just going to populate, right? It's not going to prompt the user. It doesn't even have to use the logic. It's just going to hard code, and then process our formula to get the hard-coded OData filter. And then the output from that is going to be the list of items, which will come back in a table called value. Now we don't want any type of message to come back, right? Because this is the system using this. But I do think we've got what we need here. So let's go ahead and hit save. All right, it's successfully been saved. So now we're going to go back to our topics and make it easier to find it. I always go to custom here. And so then there's my new computer request. And so now if we scroll down here, we want to click on add node. And then we're going to say this time we want to add an action. And then we'll scroll over here, click on action. And so then there is our get list of computer options action that we created. So we'll click there, scroll down a bit. And so we can see that it did everything for us, right? It said, hey, I'm going to get this. It's going to return an output of a table. and I'm going to put a variable called value. Now, once again, I would probably go ahead and click on it here, and we're just going to rename this to be var list of devices. Now, I don't think it needs to be global. We can always change it later if I'm wrong, but I think that is good, but that just gives us a better name for it. Now, sometimes when you're building these and you're learning, if you've ever watched any of my Power Apps or Power Automate videos, I like to use labels or compose to kind of prove to myself what's going on. So here, when I'm building and learning about agents, I might do the same thing. So here I might do add a node and then do send a message. Now in the message here, I could just be like, yay, it worked. Or maybe we want to do something a little bit more meaningful. So like count the number of rows that came back, right? We know that 2 items should come back. So we might just say number of items that came back. And then once again, insert a PowerFX expression. And we know that in Power Apps, we would just say count rows. And then what do we have here? We're going to have topic this time. So it's not global, it's topic because the variable is local, and then var list of devices, and then close that. So then that'll just count the number of rows, right? So it should come back with a 2, and we'll insert. So this is the type of thing that I do when I'm learning, testing. I just want to validate that I'm getting back what I thought I was getting back. Obviously, you want to delete this before you go live with your agent, but these are the little helpful tricks that make my life easier as the maker of this. So next up, we want to ask them, hey, which of these devices do you want? So we'll hit the plus. We will scroll down again and ask another question, something like, which device are you interested in? Now this time, instead of identify as a multi-choice option, we're going to hit the drop down here. And we're going to say, I want options from a list variable, right? We have a list variable, var list of devices. So we're going to do that. And then we're going to choose our variable here, var list of devices. And so if that's a table, then that should just come back the way we want. Now, truth be told, I've had a hard time. This has not worked the way that I expected it to, because that table doesn't match the format that this option wants. So that's okay. I know that it really just wants a table of values. So we're going to use, once again, our PowerFX skills to modify this to be exactly what we want. So we'll click here. We're going to go to formula. And then in the PowerFX, we're going to do something like this. All right, so with these complex formulas always work outside in. So topic var list of devices, that is our list of devices that came back from our action. We're going to use a show columns and say, hey, only show the title column. So instead of giving me all the columns, only pull back the title column, because that's where we had the name of the device. So custom PC, laptop 13-inch, whatever we had. Okay, so that pulls back just that one column. Then we're going to rename that column from title to value, because this will now output a table that is going to be value and then desktop 1 and desktop 2, right? Our 2 desktops that came back. And I know from experience that the questions list variable expects it to be just a single column table like that with a column named value. So I just use my data shaping skills there to shape that in. So then now we're going to say insert. And so that'll show them those. And then now what we want to do is we want to save that data. So var1 would save that, but we don't want it as var1. So we're going to click on var1. We're going to change this to something like var chosen device. And then this one we are going to use in another action we're going to have to create here in a second. So we are going to change this one to be global. And then for the variable description, we're going to do something like variable containing the new computer the user has chosen. Once again, I like to give descriptions anytime I can, because I know that at some point the agent's going to want that information, and it's better just to put it there now. Okay, so we've asked the question and we've got that all saved. So now if we click back over, we now need to add another action for creating the device order. So we don't want to create a support ticket. We have an action to do that, but we want to do a different create item, which creates a support order. So let's go ahead and do another save. Let's click on actions up here at the top, add an action. We'll go over here and we'll search for SharePoint again, noticing a trend. And so we want to do another create item. So just a good reminder, we can have multiple actions of the same type. That's why we keep adding those little extras to the name. All right, it's got our authentication. So we'll say next. For the name, let's set it to something like create order for new device. For description, let's set it to something like this action creates an order for the device that was chosen by the user by creating a record in the SharePoint list device orders. Just a good overview of what it does. And you'll note, like, I keep experimenting. I've always got like slightly different descriptions. I'm always trying to find those ones that work better, work worse. I'm tweaking these all the time. Like, these are not all set in stone, but you can see they are going to work for me. And so they're good examples to get you going, but don't be afraid to massage this to be what you want it to be, right? The more accurate, the more information, the more synonyms, things like that you've got in there, the more likely it would be called through the orchestration if necessary. Now, in this case, I don't ever want this one to be called by orchestration, so it's okay. All right, so we'll say add action. It's been added. Up here, we got create item. And then remember, the first thing we want to do when this opens is go up here to action name and just add device order. So that way we have clarity on that other screen of which one we're into. All the rest of this is good. So then we'll go here to inputs. For our site again, we're going to choose our Contoso IT Help Desk. For the list name, we're going to change this to value. Click confirm here. And then we're going to put the list name with its space as a space in it. So we would just type it in as it is displayed. So device orders, click out of there. And so then now that that's taken, you notice like everything that was down here went away. That's normal. And then up here we have our add button again. And so here, the first thing we want to add is the requester. We'll just scroll down here. We'll click on requester. And so for the requester, we're always going to set that as a value. So we'll do set as value, confirm. And here what we want to do is we always want to use the logged in user's display name. So we'll click in. And then if we go right here and search for user, there's the user's display name, email, first name, all the different things that it knows. So we're just going to put their display name in here. There's probably a few different ways we could have gotten that, but I'm just trying to get you more familiar with some of the different options that are available to you. So there you go. Now, before we add more fields, we'll switch over and look at the SharePoint list real quick so you have a little more grounding. So switch over. And so up here we have device orders. And so this is my SharePoint list where we're tracking, right? There's a requester. We're going to set an order status, order support, order source. And then we're also going to have the device. Now notice here, to make it a little more challenging on myself, I went ahead and made the device a lookup, right? So if we looked at list settings over here, you can see that device is a lookup, and it is doing a lookup to that device's list that we queried earlier. So what we need to do here is we're going to have to connect the dots. So it's going to be a little trickier, but that's all right. Tricky lets us learn new things. So now that we know it's set up, we'll switch back over. And so we're going to say add. And this time we want to type in device. Now, when you type in device, you're going to see ID and value here. It's a little confusing because it's a lookup column. It's not directly looking at the column name. It's saying, hey, for device, that column, I need an ID or a value, one of these two. And so we want to provide it the ID. That's that primary key to connect to the relationship. So we're going to say ID. Now we're going to scroll down here. And so now it's like, all right, well, what do I want to use? So we're going to do a value. I'm going to say confirm again. And now as we think about it, like we don't have that ID. We have the name, but the device name doesn't help us in this case. We need the actual ID. And so in order to get that, we're actually going to have to backpedal a little bit here. So let's go ahead and hit save. And now we're going to go back to our topics. We're going to go back to our custom and the new computer request. And so do you remember earlier when I said, hey, it's no big deal, like when they choose that table of items that come back, we're just going to make that a local variable because like, oh, we don't need that. I was wrong, right? We do. That's all right. It gives us a chance to see how we would just change this. So we just click on it again, and we can just easily change this to global. And then we'll set the description as something like the list of devices for the user to choose from. Something straightforward. So we're going to click out of there. So notice now it's global for our list of devices. And now we will say save. And now that it's saved, we can go back to our actions. Like it's important for you to realize that, you can change these things because as you build these out, you go down one path and you kind of get part of the way down and you're like, I actually want to do that a little bit different. Like it's very normal. So we're going to click here again. And so the error message missing required property for value. Well, yeah, we haven't given it to you yet. So we're going to say inputs. And then if we scroll down here, so now for ID, what we want to do is we're going to hit the little select variable. But we want to write another formula. That's right, your PowerFX skills coming in and play again. So let's paste this in and talk about it. So since we need the ID, we're going to do a lookup against our list of devices where the title equals the device they chose. So we're using our lookup formula to get the whole record back that would match. And then we are going to do .id, which is the primary key, which is what the ID over on the left is looking for. So this is, playing the connect the dots game, just like we always did, but this is using, once again, just a Power Apps lookup formula to do it. So now we can say insert, and one more field we want to set. So we'll scroll back up here. We'll say add. And so what we're looking for here is our order source. There it is. So we'll say string. And so for this one, we're also going to change it to use value. We're going to confirm, and then we're just going to paste into here IT support assistant, because we want to keep track of where these orders came from. And so hard coding all there, right? So this isn't unusual. And a topic, remember the whole reason we started topics, we wanted to have a very structured conversation. So that's why all of these inputs are also structured. We're having a structured set of activities here. This all looks great to me. So then now what we're going to do is we're going to say save, then we'll click on topics, custom, new computer request, scroll down here at the bottom. So all the things we've asked our question. So now we just need to have that action called that we've just created. So we're going to say plus, scroll down, add an action, and so create an order for new device, right? Like, isn't it nice that we name these easy so we don't have to remember things? I'm really bad about not naming good things, so don't be like me. Do good names like we're doing here. So we'll choose that. And so then it's like, hey, here's all these different outputs that it's going to have. We don't need those, but it's going to get those anyway. So we're just going to kind of collapse that. I don't even want to look at them. Then what you could do here, if you wanted, once again, just to make your life easier, you might just send a message and say something like, success, your device has been ordered. And then finally, we're going to hit one more plus, and we're going to go to topic management, and we're going to say, hey, I want to end the current topic, right? This is just our way of saying, all right, topic, you done, so that the system knows that everything is, bundled, all the activities we wanted to take place were completed, and then this was successfully exited. So we now have a new computer request topic. So let's save it, and then let's just go over here. We'll refresh our test your agent, and we'll just test it out by asking, I need a new PC, and we'll hit enter. So here you can see our topics being invoked. And so are you looking for a desktop or a laptop? We could click, we could type, we'll just click on laptop. I'm lazy. So then now that is running. Look, number of items that came back to. Which device are you interested in? Laptop 13-inch or 17-inch? And so we're going to say laptop 17-inch. Success, your device has been ordered. And if we jump over to our SharePoint list, a few seconds ago, Shane Young has a pending order for a laptop 17-inch by IT support assistant. Woohoo! We got what we wanted. Let's switch back over. So there you get a good look at your first topic. It's got several moving parts. We had some variables, we had some actions, we had to use some PowerFX formulas, but overall it was pretty straightforward. So in the next video, what we're going to do is we're going to take it to the next level and we're going to add some conditions in. It's not a lot harder. It's just a little bit different. And also over there, we're going to talk about using an adaptive card just to expose you to how those work. So hopefully I'll see you over there in a second.